Well, this movie came out of nowhere. Like when I saw the first trailer, I was like, oh, streaming movie. What? You're putting this in theaters? I mean, the trailers don't do the movie justice, but the trailers made it seem like one of those streaming movies that has like just an excuse of a story for some big name actors to get a quick paycheck. And this movie actually cost $90 million to make, which brings up an interesting conundrum. Should these big stars get their money up front and, give the film an almost insurmountable budget to overcome? This is only expected to open with 15. Or do you think maybe I think maybe they should have taken back end on this one to make it lean and mean budget-wise so that it had a better chance of being considered a success. This movie looks great, but there's, 90 million people got paid. But I can understand that. I can understand, particularly some of these actors have been around for a while. I don't blame them for getting their bag. Talk about a heist movie on camera and off. But anyway, also when I went to the press screening, I was talking to someone beforehand and I was shocked to discover that the movie is almost 2.5 hours, 2 hours and 20 minutes. So with trailers, that's 3 frickin' hours. There aren't trailers at a press screening, but whew, I wondered, what had I gotten myself into? A surprisingly good movie, that's what. What a delight this turned out to be. And in fact, as I watched the film unfold before me, I was like, who directed this? It's one of those movies with no credits up front. And probably after the 30 minutes of trailers, you'll be like, I'm glad we're getting right to it. It has a strong opening. It's very good. And at the very end, Bart Layton's name came up as both the director and the writer. He gave himself 2 separate title cards. He was like, oh yeah. And I was like, who? Well, it turns out Layton, is from the UK. He's been around for a long time and he's made a handful of movies, a handful. I saw 2018's American Animals, but I barely remember it. I remember it had some nice shots. I was like, I think that's when they had like a cool sequence in the library. I was like, oh, that looks pretty good. Barry Keoghan, by the way, stars there as well. So I guess maybe this is, an actor-director relationship that's building. And that's great for Barry Keoghan because, Layton's really talented. And he seems basically to come here out of nowhere with an excellent homage to Heat. Yes, as I watched Crime 101, eventually I just got sucked into the movie. But at the beginning, I was like, someone's seen Heat and liked it a lot. Hey, there's no shame in that. Christopher Nolan also liked Heat quite a bit. That's what he based his Batman movies off of. In fact, Pedro Pascal was originally supposed to co-star here. I'm guessing in Mark Ruffalo's role, which must have been reworked. But I think that would have made this movie a ripoff of Heat instead of the homage that it is. Because Hemsworth and Pascal both have leading man energy. And so I think that would have totally changed the dynamic of the film and made it more about these two guys who are on the same level. And that would have made it maybe a neo-noir. But instead, with the cast that Layton ended up working with, he beautifully creates the archetypes of a classic film noir, which is so cool to see, especially if you're a fan of film. This is a great movie. By the way, I have another review coming tomorrow for another movie that's opening this weekend. And also I'll be reacting to the Spider Noir trailer that's dropping. So if you don't want to miss either of those videos, be sure to hit that subscribe button. So as I said, this film amazingly recreates the classic character archetypes of film noir. Chris Hemsworth. I love this stuff. If you're a student of film, this is a lot of fun. So Chris Hemsworth is the anti-hero / everyman. Mark Ruffalo is the hard-boiled detective. Classically, this role was played by Edward G. Robinson, who's one of my favorites. Great actor. Also very much involved in the Red Scare situation, if you know your Hollywood history. All right, Halle Berry is the femme fatale. Monica Barbaro is the girl next door. And Barry Keoghan, of course, is the psychotic killer. Back in the 40s and 50s, Hollywood was flush with film noirs. And the genre has remained, but it has changed. Directors have played with it. And I think more recent film noirs are called neo-noirs. They don't stick to that traditional formula. And it's been a very long time since Hollywood has made a traditional film noir. And Crime 101 reminds us that the formulas for genres exist for a reason, and that even decades later, they're still extremely effective. In fact, it's been so long, I thought it was downright refreshing. I was like, tastes like film noir. Did I feel the length? Just once. You know, the movie takes its time. And after a couple of scenes focusing on Hemsworth and Barbaro's developing relationship, I was like, I got all swept in, and I started to feel like I was watching a romance, right? And then I was like, oh, wait a minute. This is a movie about robberies and heists. Let's get back to that. And they did. You know, I think the movie does a good job of ebbing and flowing. And every once in a while, it ramps up the energy with a car chase or an intricate heist. And that buys goodwill from the audience so that it can then again slow down and dip back into character development, particularly with Hemsworth, Ruffalo, and Barry. Very, very strong. Could 20 to 30 minutes have been cut off this movie, right? Like a little under 2 hours. That's the sweet spot. You know, it can book more screens, have more show times. But I gotta say, because, you know, you wonder from a studio executive perspective, can I make him shave off 20 to 30 minutes? And I have to say, I wouldn't. I wouldn't ask him to do it, because not only would you lose a lot of the character development, which I think makes the movie so engaging, but the atmosphere is very important to the film. Like, there are a couple of long shots where we're twirling around the 101, and I'm like, I like it. I mean, it makes the film feel grander, more cinematic. It reminds me a little bit of Point Break a little bit as well in that regard. Too bad it's going to get creamed at the box office this weekend by Wuthering Heights. Yes, Crime 101's trailers made it seem like a streaming movie, but now that I've actually seen the movie, I feel strongly that you should see it in theaters. In fact, I'd even recommend a premium screen, because as I said, it's got that atmosphere. Ooh, I love it. And they have it, they're splitting IMAX and Dolby screens with Wuthering Heights. I, in fact, have tickets again to see it in Dolby. But, you know, I mean, I'm not going to switch them, but I think it would even be very good in IMAX because it's so visually strong. Wuthering Heights, of course, is the Valentine's Day movie this year. Although, you know, I think for dudes, Crime 101 is actually a pretty good Valentine's Day movie. I mean, if you can't get into Wuthering Heights, or if somebody in your group doesn't want to watch Wuthering Heights and you still want to go to the movies, I think Crime 101 would actually be good. It's got romance in it, but yet also crime. I thought it was really good. But yeah, I hope that people discover this movie down the line, right? Like perhaps Wuthering Heights, this is its only weekend to really play in theaters. Like if like Sunday, if you haven't seen it for Valentine's Day, like there's the lead up to Valentine's Day, but after that, you know, maybe the moment will be over. But I hope that people for the next couple of weeks are like, maybe we should see Crime 101. Honestly, I liked Send Help and I liked Wuthering Heights quite a bit. But I thought about if I wanted to say this, but yeah, I will. I think Crime 101 is the best movie of the year to date. I know. And that's because it's just so well made. You really have to marvel at the craftsmanship. Like, it's so beautiful. It's a good old-fashioned film noir, as I said, with twists and turns, some of which I didn't see coming, some of which I did. But still, it was so deliciously rewarding to see them play out. I was like, oh, it tastes so good. It's so good. Bart Layton, as I said, has, you know, really crafted an old-fashioned movie here. I like that. I think that's, I mean, you know, I certainly value experimentation with the medium, but, you know, it's nice to have a variety. And I like, you know, falling back on the formula that I think has been so effective. And I hope this film has mass appeal because, you know, it takes its time, right? But therefore it's not too confusing, right? It's, you know, like, I was trying to think of a good comparison for what it felt like. These are neo-noirs, but it reminds me a bit of The Departed and maybe also Zodiac, which starred also Mark Ruffalo, much earlier in his career, although he seems exactly the same. When I first got out of Crime 101, I wondered if I could sit through it again. You know, I made a commitment. I knew I was definitely going to watch it again, but I was like, oh, it was long. Is this something I could sit through again, especially so soon? You know, maybe down the line I could, you know, stream it or rent it or something like that. But I was like, whew, in just a few days. But the more I thought about it to do this review, and the more I just relished again how well crafted it was, and some of the particularly more thrilling and amusing sequences, I was like, man, I think I really would like to see it again. And then, of course, when you have a very strong but simplistic framework like this, the casting is key. And, again, Pedro Pascal was supposed to star, but I think the movie really lucked out with the way it came together. So yeah, let's talk actors. Thor and Hulk. Yes, I did think that when the movie first started. And I chuckled to myself, wondering if after Pedro Pascal dropped out, if Hemsworth had given his Thor Ragnarok buddy a call and been like, we have an opening. You want to help us out here? And if that is the case, thank goodness Hemsworth made that call. But I have to say, as the movie progressed, I got so into it that I just saw their characters. They were able to no longer be Thor and Hulk. And I just, they blended into the movie quite well. I thought Chris Hemsworth does a great job with his acting here. He seemed really tormented and shy. I thought he did a great job. Although it was funny that I called up a friend of mine after the movie who had also seen it early, and they were like, ooh, such bad acting, career-ending bad acting. And I was like, really? I thought it was great. So you'll have to tell me what you think of his acting here. I will say that in some shots, one in particular, I've never thought that he looked like his brother Liam. I'm always like, are you sure you guys are related? I mean, sometimes they have those piercing eyes and those like very noticeable eyelashes, but otherwise I've been like, you guys don't look at all alike. But here, and also there's this new recent photo of them on the red carpet together. But, it's funny to see Chris Hemsworth finally starting to look a little bit like Liam. Mark Ruffalo looks like Peter Falk. Oh, does he look like Peter Falk? And if you're a Columbo fan, who's seen a Columbo movie, that's fantastic. Someday, I think Mark Ruffalo has even addressed this, but I would love him someday to actually play Columbo. He'd be great at it. And he does see himself playing a lot of detectives these days. And a part of me feels that it might be because everybody makes that Columbo connection, even if it's subconsciously. But he's great here. He plays a lot of detectives, but this is one of his better detective roles. And Halle Berry. Wow. First off, she looks so good. She looks great and her fashions are fantastic. But, she's playing a 53-year-old here, and that's important to the plot. But she's actually 59. But people make a big deal about how good Nicole Kidman looks, but Halle Berry, wow, she looks so good. Good for her. Recently, Berry has also been, probably for the press campaign for this movie, but she's talked about that even after her historic Oscar win, Hollywood still didn't have any good movies for a Black leading lady. And other Black actresses have had the same issue, even to this day. So that makes it particularly nice to see Berry get such a good role here. Halle Berry has had a lot of iconic roles, and she's had bad roles in good, famous movies for the most part. But after, of course, her Oscar-winning role in Monsters Ball, I would say this might actually be her best role because the role itself is so complex and has so much depth. Like, she has a monologue that I think because if there had been more women in my audience, I think people would have burst into applause. You could feel the energy of people who are like, maybe we should applaud. My audience didn't applaud, but I'd be curious if anyone reacts in your screening. I bet some screenings, I think at least maybe someone shouts something out. I'd be curious. Let me know about that as well. Okay, let's talk Barry Keoghan. Keoghan has definitely hit a rough patch with his career. For a moment there, he seemed like he was on a rocket to the top, right? But then the reception of his roles kind of fizzled, right? And he made Sabrina Carpenter fans like really angry. I think he was even getting harassed there for a little bit. And at least though he's landed the role of Ringo for the upcoming Beatles movie. But and I think the Joker thing did a little bit of damage as well, right? Like he went from being like exciting to being a little bit of a joke. In a bad way. But here I was like, maybe we should give his Joker a second chance. Maybe Matt Reeves can work on the look a little bit more, right? Because here Keoghan has this charismatic, unhinged quality to him and an unpredictability. And I was like, I don't know if he would make a good Joker on his own or if he would just call very much to mind Heath Ledger's version of the character. He's blonde here. He's got Heath Ledger vibes, right? So part of me feels like, I don't want to do a ripoff of Heath Ledger's brilliant work. I would rather try and take Joker in a different direction. And maybe Keoghan was trying, but whatever he was trying, I don't think was totally working. So I don't know. I'd give him another chance though. He's so good here. He did a really phenomenal job. As for Monica Barbaro, who is also so good and a complete unknown, she and Hemsworth are actually only 7 years apart. She's in her mid-30s, but she looks much younger than she actually is. And on top of that, they give her the job here as an assistant, which is typically someone in their early to mid-20s. So she seems substantially younger than Chris Hemsworth's character, which throws their scenes off a little bit. It's a little distracting. But otherwise, she does a very nice job. She's the girl next door. It's a thankless role, but it's important to the formula. So she does what she can with what she has. So it was nice. But I mean, it's not like as rich a role as anyone else's here. Oh, by the way, Corey Hawkins is in this movie as well. He has a very small role as Mark Ruffalo's partner, but I was just happy to see him getting more work. He does a nice job too. All right, so why exactly do I think this is worth seeing in theaters? Well, you have to commit. You have to realize that with trailers and ads, this is a 3-hour trip to the movie. But as any film fan will tell you, there's great comfort in a very good 3-hour movie. In fact, during the pandemic, I was looking for 3-hour movies. Even sometimes now, if you have a little bit of time on the weekend or something, you're like, yeah, let's settle in for a movie. And if you find a movie like this, it's extremely fun to watch. It captures Los Angeles quite well, the more lived in realistic part of Los Angeles. I really feel that it felt a lot like the city. And also, by the way, speaking of Michael Mann, it has those beachfront apartments that his films are famous for. And they look very good here too. It's particularly Chris Hemsworth's second apartment. I was like, ooh, upgrade indeed, sir. That was very nice. And it was so Michael Mann. It was funny. It goes back. I mean, I do wonder, Michael Mann is making Heat too. And I was like, oh, did Bart Layton just drink a little bit of your milkshake, beer buddy? I hope that Michael Mann can make, not all Michael Mann movies are great. I wonder if he can make something that works this well. Sometimes people lose their touch, but this was, very, very strong. All right, it goes back and forth between hypnotic and thrilling, hypnotic, thrilling, hypnotic, thrilling, and that works. It's well thought out, but doesn't try to be too clever. It's easy to follow, again, as I said. And I found a lot of the developments, even though some of them I saw coming, extremely rewarding and fun to watch. One in particular, I was like, I just noticed it at the last second. And I was like, are they going to do what I think they're going to do? And it was as good as I hoped it would be. Like I gasped a few times. I laughed a few times. And again, I thought to myself, oh, this is going to be good a few times. So I strongly recommend Crime 101 in theaters. But if you can't make it out, if you don't quite believe me, I hope that you'll give it a shot down the line on digital or streaming, because this is the way they used to make them, and it still works. All right, so that's my review of Crime 101 hitting theaters this weekend for Valentine's Day, but see it at some point. Really, I think you should give it a shot. Share those thoughts down below, subscribe today, and of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.